The Cubs had won two straight series heading into their series in Cleveland against the Guardians, but have dropped the first two games yesterday by the final score of 2-1. Offense couldn't really get anything going. We're going to talk about that and more on this edition of the Cubs Baseball Channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Get in that comment section. Let us know if you think the Cubs can win Game 3 of the series in Cleveland tonight. But for now, here's your invitation to our show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel. My name is Anthony Pasquale. You can find me on Twitter at ant_Pasquale3. I've got a lot of my Cubs takes on there. And you can also find our show, the Cubs Baseball Channel, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on TikTok. So make sure to follow us on there as we post some of our, clips from our videos, content, all those different sorts of things on those different platforms. Find us on there, and we'll make sure to engage with you not only here in our comment section, but also in those different channels as well. But here we go. The Cubs lost yesterday, 2-1, the final score. The Cubs scored a run in the top of the second inning to take a 1-0 lead, and then did not score the rest of the game. It was a frustrating offensive performance, and then Drew Smyly came in out of the bullpen and served up the game-winning homer in the bottom of the sixth inning. And that was pretty much the story of the ball game. The umpiring wasn't great, but you can't blame every game on the umpiring. The big issue is the Cubs couldn't get anything going offensively. Only 5 hits and 2 walks in the ball game. The Cubs were facing a guy who hadn't started a game in the major league since June of last year, making his first start of the season, and he went 5 1/3 with 6 strikeouts against this offense. That's inexcusable. And from top to bottom, it wasn't great. Happ had a hit. Paredes had a hit and a walk. Bellinger had a hit. Swanson had a walk, and Nico Hoerner had 2 hits. That's it. That was the whole game. The Cubs lost for the first time with Christian Bethancourt in the lineup. That was a little trend. I think in his first 6 starts, the Cubs had won. But this is the first loss with him in the lineup for the Cubs. They just really couldn't get anything going offensively. And then they had a few innings where they kind of ran themselves out of innings. They had Nico Hoerner had 2 steals, but then in the top of the 9th inning ran into the third out at third base. So it wasn't a great game. And the frustrating thing is, like we were talking about yesterday, when you try so hard to get back to that 500 plateau, losing puts you so much further from getting there. They enter this series 1 game away from 500. Now you lose the first 2 games of the series and you're 3 games back. Now you got to win 3 in a row just to get to 500 and then move forward from there. So it's a tough road. It's a long road ahead. Obviously, the Cubs did this to themselves, but as they've been starting to play some better ball as of late, each loss feels more and more like a step back as you try to get there. Another storyline of yesterday's game was in line with Monday night's is Emmanuel Clase dominates again. He got his 37th save of the season, lowering his season ERA to 0.64. But in fact, we talked about this yesterday. We thought maybe he wouldn't pitch even 2 nights ago because he had pitched 2 games in a row. If you can do the math, he's now pitched 4 games in a row. A first time a closer has pitched in 4 straight games and got the save since 2018. It's a dying breed, but you got to give some credit to Emmanuel Clase, who comes in and dominates night after night. Now, I don't think Cleveland, if presented with a save situation again tonight, would throw him out there for a 5th straight game. But I have to say he's been incredibly efficient. I think only 8 pitches 2 nights ago, 10 pitches yesterday to get the save. He's just been unreal. And we talked about this. If the Cubs had him or somebody half as good as him back there at the end of the bullpen, this season would probably look a whole lot different. This is another thing that we mentioned yesterday. The Cubs skipped Kyle Hendricks through this time through the rotation just because they had so many off days. They planned to use him out of the bullpen in this series. It was weird. We thought that he would piggyback off of Assad yesterday, who went 4 2/3, allowing just 1 run, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. And I thought it would go, Assad for 4, maybe 5, and then Hendricks for 2 or 3. But instead, Drew Smyly was the first out of the pen, and then Jorge Lopez pitched the 7th, and Nate Pearson pitched the 8th, scoreless. So we didn't see Kyle Hendricks yesterday. Then maybe expect to see him today after Jameson Taillon potentially. Otherwise, I'm sure he'll just get right back into the rotation once the off days kind of subside and the Cubs can go and start 5. But after the loss yesterday, the Cubs dropped to 3 games below 500. We've said this before. We'll say it again. They do have the easiest schedule in the National League remaining. The Brewers have been struggling. Cardinals have been struggling. So, now's the time to go on the run if you can, but you got to start winning ball games. And the Cubs have now dropped back into 4th place, 9.5 back of the Brewers, who keep losing just like the Cubs do. So they're not losing any ground. And then 4.5 back of the National League wild card, as the Braves have won 2 games in a row against the Giants. The Cubs with now just a 5.6% chance to make the playoffs this season and a 2.1% chance to win the division. But the only way to get those numbers to climb is to win the ball game at hand tonight, as the Cubs take on the Cleveland Guardians once again tonight at 5:40. Jameson Taillon, he's the guy who benefits from the Cubs skipping Kyle Hendricks' spot. He will pitch tonight. He's 8-6 on the season with a 3.50 ERA. Pitched really, really good up until like his second to last start before the trade deadline, and hasn't quite looked the same for the last few, but his last start was a lot better, and hoping he continues to pitch well and hopefully gets that 9th win of the season up against Alex Cobb, coming off of injury as well. He's only made 1 start. It was a loss, gave up 4 runs, I believe, in 4 2/3 innings for a 7.71 ERA on the season. His second start of the year, hopefully the Cubs can get to him early and often. It was kind of 2 different games, right? The first game, a lot of offense. The Cubs kept on battling back. They lose 9-8. The next game, no offense whatsoever. So hopefully Cubs can score early and often and get the win tonight in Cleveland. But guys, thanks so much for joining us here on the Cubs Baseball channel. We always appreciate the conversation, the comments, all of the follows, the likes, the subscriptions, ring the bell. Thank you guys for all of that. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram as well. But for now, thank you guys, and we will talk to you soon, hopefully after another Cubs W. Go Cubs.